Okay, and we're live. I think I'm getting better at this, and I should, because it's been, what, half a year since I last started live streaming? Whoa. Hi everyone, it's me, NUSensei, again. Now, you might be surprised, because I didn't exactly say I'm doing the Q&A, like now, and was I? This was planned for this weekend, but it's been a kind of funny week, and I thought I've got a bit of time right now. We've got a slightly different time slot. Normally I would stream about 2 hours after this, but it's been a weird week. So let me explain what's happened this week so far. So, in our school week, we've had the school athletics day on Tuesday. Now that's not exactly a day off, but it's a class-free day. So that was one thing. It's a big day. I filmed a lot of things. And then on Wednesday, it was Anzac Day. And in Australia, Anzac Day is a day which commemorates servicemen. It's kind of like Veterans Day in the US, although we have Remembrance Day instead in November. But yeah, we have, we had Anzac Day. So it's a weird week because our Hump Day, Wednesday, is a public holiday. And today, which is Thursday, feels like Monday, and tomorrow's Friday. It's the end of the week. Now, unfortunately, for the rest of the school term, there's like no days off until Queen's birthday. But for now, I've got a lot of I guess refreshment. I feel a lot different today. I did go for a shoot, though with daylight savings and winter coming closer, we're losing daylight very rapidly. I used to shoot to like 9 PM. Now it's like dark at 5:30. Like I literally left work, got to the range, didn't have time to I don't know, put my bow together, so I shot my horse bow instead, because all I had to do was put a string on. And even then I got like 3 shots in and then it was done. So really tough to shoot right now. I do hope to spend more time indoors. So hello to our usual crowd and our notification squad. I might be seeing some different people because the slightly different time slot might work better. And again, I've got nothing really better to do right now. I'd either be planning work or marking essays or playing Hearts of Iron 4. So I thought I'd just spend a bit of time a bit earlier, just get set up for a Q&A, because there were quite a few questions, and I thought I'd get it over and done with in my spare time now, rather than wait till the weekend. The weekend's normally dead time. I don't want to stream on the weekend. I've been quite busy with videos for the last few days, you've probably seen from my feed. So hello to our viewers out there, or I don't know, 10 of you or something. So Taxi Mike of Fern 28, who is actually first today. Akmal Adam, Player Hunter, of course. And there's Zipkeepy. Congratulations on your state record. From the way you shoot, I'm actually not surprised. I think you shoot quite well for your age group. So well done on your state record. That is well earned. And hopefully we see more of you in action. That is an excellent way to get your feet wet into archery, and well done for your competition. We've got Arnis, of course. The archery juice of the day is actual juice. It's apple juice today. Sergio, hello. Adrian from Namibia, hello. Wow, I don't think I've seen someone who's actually been on my channel from Namibia. That is really, really interesting. Which part of Namibia are you from? Windhoek, I'm guessing, perhaps. I was named the biggest possible city, so I'm not sure. But nice to see you tuning in. 4 AM in Washington. Interesting. Yeah, I have no idea what time it is in your part of the world, right? So, like, I kind of just stream when I can. I know most people in the world can't view at the same time, so hopefully you're tuning in from wherever you are. I hope you have a nice day. What time is it where you are? It's nice to start with this. Hi, Derek, by the way. Nice to join us. Windhoek, I thought so. I don't know. It's the one city I know in Namibia. It's the capital city, of course. Although, in fairness, right, I doubt like most people would know where Namibia is or Windhoek would be. So, hello. Nice. Hello to Steve from Canada. And Sid, I said hello before. Good morning. Man, I've got a lot of anecdotes. As a teacher, it's a school week, it's a school day. On the weekend, I kind of switch off, so I kind of forget what I do for a living. but I'm in a teacher mode. So I've got this really weird thing happening in my head where I've got so many funny stories from work, but maybe I'll share that for a different time. Hello to Nathan Ward from your first stream from New South Wales, and Jonathan from Box Hill, which is a bit closer to me. Let me guess. It is currently 9:07 p.m. in your place in Box Hill, Jonathan. And Gary Patton, of course. Latara, 1 p.m. in Italy. That's perfect for you Europeans. And Elijah, nice. You get your first Robin Hood. I'm not sure whether I should congratulate you or feel sorry for you because you destroyed a couple of arrows. But well done. Were they your arrows or were they somebody else's arrows? Were they club arrows? Thank you, Nathan. Exactly my words. Yeah. Play hunting. You make a point about the my last video. I just want to clarify. I'm not talking about bad archers in that video. The video I'm talking about is what would an unskilled archer look like, or how would you depict an unskilled archer. There are lots of ways to make someone look bad, but the question wasn't so much about looking bad, but more about if someone was self-taught and had a functional style that lacked the elegance or the refinement or technique of a trained archer. So no, you can always show someone shoot really poorly, or somebody shoots poorly and still hit the target. That was the focus of the video there. It's noon at the UK. That's really cool. Cool. So this might suit some of the Europeans. I know some people are hoping for an earlier stream or a much later stream where you are. Hopefully this might be a little different. I can't always do this at 9 p.m. But because it's daylight savings, it's so dark outside, I can't figure out what time it is. You just wake up and like, is it 7 p.m. or 7 a.m.? I've actually had a colleague who shared a story where she went home from work. She was dead tired. She went to sleep, and then she woke up. It was like 8 o'clock, so she got up and she went to work as soon as possible. It was actually 8 p.m., not 8 a.m. But the daylight is exactly the same at these 2 points in time because of daylight savings. So she kind of went halfway and realized it was actually the afternoon, not the morning. Okay. So, let's go through some more questions. We'll take the live questions in a general moment. But on that note, generic twat. You are 13 and you're getting a 50-pound draw weight. Should get a lighter one. The answer is yes, generic twat. You should get a lighter draw weight. 50-pound is a weight which most adults would not shoot. 50-pound is serious hunting level weight. Why get 50-pound for your first bow? That would be my question for you. If I were you, I'd get a 15-pound bow or a 20-pound bow, but not a 50-pound bow. I don't care how strong you are. 50-pound is beyond. It is beyond the strength of most adults, unless they do some serious training. Thank you, Prairie. If it's a compound, that's different. I would still recommend a lighter bow, like 30-pound for your first one. But if you're shooting recurve, then 50-pound is insane. In my last live stream, I think it was my last one, I had to talk about one of our juniors who's 18, he just bought himself a 30-pound bow. And I was going off at him and on the stream for shooting 30-pound because he just couldn't do it. Now, a 13-year-old shooting 50, unless you are insanely huge and you are like a freak of nature, then I would not recommend a 50-pound bow. That is not fun to do and quite dangerous for your well-being. So we'll take questions a bit later. Let's go through our pre-prepared questions for those who came in first. We'll go. I've got quite a few. I've got I've got like 30, 40. I'm glad I did earlier. This might take a while, so let's go through some of these questions. We'll start from our Facebook questions, and hey, it's new. Yes, this is the April Fool's avatar, which I haven't changed yet, but here we are on the Facebook page. We've got quite a few people asking questions. So let's go through each one of these. I'll actually show the questions this time. So last time I forgot, I think. So let's read these out. So David Seamus from Bermuda. He runs Bermuda Archery, by the way. Very old follower. It's been around for ages. When is it time to chance out the change finger tabs? How does an old worn out tab affect? Sorry, as an English teacher, I can't try to read this. How does an old worn out tab affect arrow release? That's a good question. Okay, so the answer to this question would be that firstly, like the signs of a worn out finger tab typically would either mean the leather is thinning out, so therefore you feel the string a lot more harshly. Now remember, finger tabs are very sensitive. Everybody has a particular feel for their finger tabs. Why there are so many different kinds. I mean, you don't have to buy an expensive finger tab. You can buy a cheap one and it feels just right for you. Now, with finger tabs, most people get a certain feeling of thickness and padding. And over time, the finger tab will eventually be worn thin from the constant pressure and the release of the string, so it'll eventually thin out. And you find often with finger tabs, I don't have one here right now which is used, but often with finger tabs, like the back of the finger tab where your fingers are, will form very distinct grooves. And that's typically a sign that it's starting to conform too much to your hand and the leather is getting really, really thin. And you start feeling a sharper, prick on your fingers because there's more abrasion going on. The second thing is if the leather itself starts tearing, and this is especially for the cheaper tabs. The leather isn't as strong or it's not as durable, the finish isn't as good, and therefore after some usage, you start seeing rips or tears in the finger tab, and that's typically a sign that it's time to move on. Seeing crinkles, I guess, in the finger tab is fairly normal, but if it starts tearing, then that is not going to be a good sign for your finger tab. So that's normally when you replace it. When it feels too different from the original feeling, and because it's so gradual, you might not notice it. But if you feel that your release is a bit too sensitive compared to what it normally is, you feel a bit more pain in your fingers because it's less protection and padding, or you notice there's actual physical damage in your finger tab, time to change. That's my answer to the question. Alright, again, I'll take the chat questions later because I've got quite a few to get through. If you have questions, save for later and that'll tag me a bit later. Okay, so next question from Andrea. I'm looking to start archery this year. I'm having some real trouble with finding the right arrows. This is an arrow question, isn't it? Okay. So I'll do arrows in a more specific video at some point in the vague distant future. But here's the question. So 22-pound recurve, draw on 28-inch. So you need around 30-inch arrows. Yeah, but I think 29 is probably enough. 30 is okay. You probably cut it down from 30. But the charts are quite confusing. Now, I found some I like, okay, with the arrows, yeah, I found some I like, but they are for a 40 to 60 pound bow. This does matter a lot, by the way. So if you have a 22-pound bow and you shoot arrows which are spined for 40 to 60 pounds, those are way too stiff. And if you're a right-handed archer and you shoot that 40-pound arrow off a 22-pound bow, it will fling off to the left. It will not go straight. It won't clear the bow properly. There'll be extra contact with the back of the arrow hitting the bow. You're going to smack yourself a lot. So it's not going to be a good idea to do that. Now, I want to make a very important note here. That is, don't buy arrows off eBay. I know a lot of people find it easy to buy off Amazon and eBay and AliExpress. And if you're buying traditional arrows, then you might find arrows which are wooden and are spined for that particular draw weight. But if you're looking at carbon arrows or aluminium arrows and you're looking at arrow charts, you should follow the charts. I will give you an example of how I would read a chart, okay? Let's pull up a chart. Let's look at gold tip. Gold tip's an easy chart to read. I'm gonna Google it. I'm just gonna use the image just to, oh, this could work. They have a website, even better. So I'll show you what to do. Okay, so I would do this in more detail in a different video at some point, but this is the brief version for Andrea, okay? So this is the gold tip arrow chart, and I don't know what arrows you're using. Don't be too stuck on arrows you quote-unquote like. It's more important to find arrows which suit your bow, not arrows you like. Okay, so if it looks different, then if you find one which looks good and you like it, fantastic, but don't worry too much. Okay, so I'm assuming you're shooting a recurve bow. So we go to the recurve section over here. So you have to draw weight of the recurve bow and the point weight. Now, one thing to note is that it's often difficult to find the right arrow for low draw weights. And in that case, you find the lowest possible draw. It's a 30 to 34 pound. And the arrow length, you're going to keep at 30 inch. So that might be 500. I'd probably recommend, by the way, in that case, a 600 spine arrow. Or even a 700, but you might not find this at the right length because these are very hard to find. I'd say for you, if you're shooting a gold tip arrow, you might go for a 600 spine at the full length and use a weaker point, and that will be a 30 to 34 pound. It'll still be stiff for you, but maybe a longer arrow at a softer spine might be the right balance. So to answer your question right away, probably start with a 600 for spine for the gold tips. Now I can say it depends on your spine chart. I might say for 22 pound, I might try something like an Easton Apollo. I know for the Easton chart, let's have a look, Easton arrow chart. The Easton chart will also show something a little different. And let's see if we can get a good one. That's something to happen. That's just really. What is that? Okay, never mind. Let's go to the arrow chart instead. Let's try this one. Will it load? Let's open new tab. It does load. Alright, can we zoom in? I want to open the image in a new tab. View image, there we go. Alright. We'll do some zooming in. So let's try the Eastern one, which has a lot more arrow choices. And unfortunately, this quality might be a little poor, but we'll see what we can do here. So, recurve bow, 17 to 23 pound, and you want 29-inch arrows, which would be a T3. You go to T3, and the bottoms are cheaper ones. So T3 gives you lots of options. So you might go for, let's say the X7, which I believe the platinums. So 1814 aluminium arrows, or 1816 of the 75 arrows. And there's several different types of arrows here. So you might go for around an 870 spine or 800 spine. That's probably close. I said 600 before. You're probably close to around a 700 or an 800 for a very low poundage bow. So that's, I think, what we around there. Hope that helps you, by the way, at least how to read the charts. So yeah, you need to look at what arrows you can buy. And like I said, I would severely recommend that you don't go to eBay for your arrows. What you should do is go to an archery shop if possible and ask them in person. They will help you find the right arrow. If you're going to read your own arrow charts, then that's what you would do. You find the lightest possible spine. Again, I think around, for me, for my 25 pound bow, which is around 22 pounds of my draw length, I shoot an Easton Apollo 850, and we use 850 spine arrows for our club, so you might go for the 850 Apollo as an example, something like that. But don't go off looks, go off spine. If you don't follow the spine charts, you will not shoot straight, and that's really important. Couple of things from live, by the way. Generic again, should I buy my bow from Apex? I personally don't recommend it because Apex stocks a lot of Chinese bows. That doesn't mean they're bad. Some of the brands are getting some decent reviews. I think they stock some Junsing bows, so they're getting up there. But Apex isn't a. They sell primarily for the cheap online budget market. If you're buying a bow, I would severely recommend you go to an archery store and buy one. If not, go to a proper archery store. In Australia, you might find quite a few things. You might find Abbey Archery, Urban Archery, Pat's Archery. There are a lot of Australian stores. Apex is not a very good store. I don't mean to insult Apex, by the way, but they don't give you a lot of options in terms of gear. It's mostly just imported Chinese bows. Okay, so they're cheap and affordable, but they're not necessarily good bows. I haven't seen someone use a bow from Apex and actually enjoy it. Like, they bring it, they shoot it once, they find it trashy, and they don't bring it back. It's a very good way to waste money to a bow. So I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, by the way. If you find yourself with a good bow, with a good review from Apex, then great. But it's not a mainstream store. It's not brick and mortar. They get by selling lots of goods online. Doesn't mean they're great. Okay. Other quick questions. Hi Kevin, by the way, welcome back, and David Wood, welcome. Yes, Play Hunter. Normally the chart is a little stiff, but it's actually a good way to future-proof, because if you improve your form, get higher draw length, or you expand a bit more, or you go up in draw weight, you find your arrows will last longer. It is better to shoot a slightly stiff arrow than a slightly soft one. I think most charts will err on the stiffer side. And there are so many variations, it's hard to say for sure. A lot of people say it's slightly stiffer, but like I said, it's easier to work with a stiffer arrow than a softer one. So that's kind of my general recommendation. And for a first set of arrows, it doesn't really matter that much. Once you get your first set, you can tune your bow and find a better match after that. And one thing you find of buying arrows is that you need to be willing to spend money to experiment with different arrows. Sometimes it can be a risk, but be prepared to expend arrows and spend on arrows. That's the point there. Oh yeah, Zip, sure. Send me another video. Like, I saw your last one. Send me one. I won't do it for this live stream, but send me one anyway. I'll do a form check for you in the next form check video. And by the way, anyone watching who wants a live form check, just send me an email with the video, and I'll get it set up and I'll do it next time. I'll only do the form checks when I get enough, when I get 2 or 3, so I can spend more time looking through it. If I don't get any form checks, then I'll just hold off to a different time. I'm gonna move my camera a bit. I'm leaning down a bit too much. How's that? That's a bit better. That's how I normally do, right? I do this. I've got like the text in the way, so good. All right. Victory Vaps are good, by the way. The Victory arrows do go down to very low draw weights. We do use Victory arrow. No, we don't. We use an Easton arrow. Easton. I forgot the word now, actually. But I do have the very light draw weights. Another quick question: the best way to start archery? Go to a club. Get a lesson. Club's the best nexus for archery beginners, because you will have the most exposure and experience and advice from people at a club. That's my my general idea. Okay, back to our list of questions. That was number 2. My goodness, this is gonna take a while. Whoops. Okay. So number 3. Wow. MJ Jackson. Oh, okay. So Facebook is making it hard for me to get my first bow from the group pages by clearing and deleting posts from other members. I'm a procrastinator and left-handed. That's 2 big problems: left-handed and procrastination. So this adds to the challenge. So my question is, what are some good archery forums to help me with my search for the perfect first bow? I don't go to forums. But if I were to recommend a forum, I reckon Archery Talk. What's going to be the most popular online forum here? So just quickly poke around. This is probably the best place to buy and sell used goods. So the Archery forum, there is a classified section. My phone's dying right now. That's fine. So there is a classified section. I don't actually come here, not for no particular reason, but there are classifieds you can actually buy and sell here. Archery Talk is probably the most common place online. But apart from that, there aren't many places. There are several other forums, but this is probably the one I'd recommend if you're looking for a starting point. Next question comes from Jad. Yes, I have a book here. Give me a second, guys. I want to try and find a book to answer this question. found it. I haven't actually read the book yet, but I'll explain why I need this book in a moment. So the question comes from Jad. Bing. So, Jad, are there any scientific studies or materials on the body mechanics involved in archery? And the answer is yes, there are quite a few. I will only mention one right now because it's a fairly recent one, and that is Archery Anatomy by Ray Axford. So, there are lots of studies, and not many of these have been widely published. But there are a lot of these things which showcase the use of muscles and the body alignment in archery. So the answer is yes. Okay, so there are quite a few things, lots of nice explanation diagrams. Like I said, I haven't really read the book yet, but there are resources and research done on archery anatomy. So this one literally is Archery Anatomy. So that might be worth checking out. I bought it for curiosity rather than anything else. Don't do it past 9 PM. I'll try, Zip. I'll try. I know you're going to early bedtime. I'm a teacher, so I know it's like as well. But yeah, no, I'll try to squeeze in a bit of time for form checks. Okay, next one. Greg, I watch you shoot 3 under bare bow, then change the split finger of limb recurve. Reason? Okay, this is a good reason here. Main reason for the change in finger placement on a bare bow is because it depends on how you shoot bare bow. For Olympic, debatably, the most correct way to do archery is have the arrow inside the hand, alright? So that way, the arrow follows your arm, and it's less like off angle, I guess, you know. So it's more in line. So that's the normal way. For people who shoot with gap or with instinctive aiming methods, they'll shoot like this. This is the most natural way to do archery. The 3 under is a bare bow method, which either can involve string walking or face walking. We'll talk about string walking primarily. The point with string walking, and I'll bring out the ever handy sage. The thing with string walking is that you would aim by counting how many stitches in your finger tab or the gap between your knocking point and the arrow and your fingers, which would be the point on for that distance. Because the lower you go, the more varied your distance will be. So if you need to shoot a certain target a certain distance, you would measure how much that would be. That's why people shoot 3 under. Now, most people don't do this for normal archery or trad shooting because it presents asymmetric draw on the bow. There already is a slight imbalance, but when you're pulling this low under, you're putting more tension on the bottom limb than normal. So this isn't particularly well recommended for traditional shooting. For people who are doing bare bow, especially modern bare bow, they will configure their bow to shoot at 3 under. That's the main reason why bare bow shooters do so. Beginners will do so because it's easier to aim with the arrow, but for the more regular bare bow shooters, they actually have the specific measurement using string walking. It's to the point where instinctive the instinctive classes in archery actually ban string walking. So there are some divisions in traditional shooting or bare bow shooting which don't allow string walking because it kind of is cheating. It's kind of like aiming with a sight, but instead of using a sight, you're using your fingers to count and measure. So that's the answer to that question there. Wow, we're so far behind the questions. What I do to myself. Next question from Bogdan. Mounting 2 clickers on a recurve is acceptable in competition. Do you personally think can be a good approach for someone to get consistent draw length in order to start using single clicker? Yeah, I'm going to say no on this one, by the way. I understand why you might use 2 clickers. I understand, because the idea is you want to establish one length before you start the expansion and a second one to let go, okay? There are certain clickers which have a tandem function, so they have a dual click. So you don't need 2 clicks for this because the difference in the gap is minimal, because you only, like a good archer will be about 1 millimeter away from the clicker at full draw. So all you have to do is to extend a bit and you click. You don't need 2 clickers to do this. the clickers which are designed to allow this dual function, I don't have an example with me right now. I'm trying to find some kind of thing to show you what it might look like, any kind of metal strip. Let's use keys here, I guess. Actually, a key might be a good example. Okay, so let's take a look at this key. So the clickers which I've seen, which have the dual function, have a slightly larger plate on this side here, and it's kind of ridged like this key. So the first pull through, the arrow comes through, it triggers a slight movement on the clicker, and then you pull through again, and it clicks. That's how it works. I haven't seen, I've seen it, I don't remember what it's called. I do recall being critical of it, because I've never seen it used by a person before. I have seen how it works, and the reason why I was against it is because it breeds a dependence on the clicker. You need to recognize by feel where the clicker is, and you shouldn't rely on tactile feedback, because with tactile feedback, that tends to lead to target panic, because you feel it and you let go. That's kind of the reaction we train. So the first click, or the feeling of the clicker moving, is when you let go. When the first click goes, you might be tempted to let go before it actually goes through. And I think you need to find a better way to train clicker usage or clicker control instead of having two clickers or that tandem clicker. The other thing is, some archers will actually look at the clicker. They'll draw back, check the clicker, and then finish the shot. You'll see this in the Shoot Like Me series on World Archery, that several archers do make a point about checking the clicker length. So there are better ways to make sure you're at the right distance. You don't need two clickers to learn how to use a clicker. That will make things a lot harder. And more to make a good point there, one clicker is already enough hassle. You don't need two. Okay. Seth, are there any comps that longbow archers can get into? The answer is yes. For longbow, you can find yourself doing mostly field or 3D. Target shooting depends on where you are. Sorry, it depends on where you are in your national association. So many associations will have a longbow division. And typically, this division will specify the type of bow. That is, a bow in which the string does not touch the limbs, therefore not a recurve, and therefore you can shoot American longbow, flat bow, English longbows. There are different kinds of longbows, but it must be like that shape where there's no contact with the limb, so it can't be a recurve. There may be rules which specify that you must use wooden arrows and you can't string walk and so on. So there are definitely divisions if for longbow. Again, for your national association, might have a longbow division for target archery, indoor and outdoor. World Archery does not have that division, but it's only for world events. Instead, longbow is primarily for the field and 3D events, where they shoot at shorter distances but at more varied targets. And arguably, field and 3D are probably closer to what you might say real archery competition rather than the static one distance shooting which you see most Olympians do. But yeah, longbow tends to be more for that kind of archery rather than for precision long distance shooting. But you can. Additionally, if you're shooting in a bow hunting association or 3D association, then there may be divisions and competition specifically for longbow, which you won't find in target archery. Jorge, I think, not George, Jorge Blanco. Question, very quick one, sorry. Where were we? If I'm really into compound but never practice archery, what would you recommend? Start with recurve and then compound, or start with compound? Good question. I would normally recommend you start recurve and then compound, because it's easier to transfer skills over. Recurve is easy to use, there's less things to configure, it's easier to learn proper form with a recurve. However, if you plan to shoot compound, there's no harm in starting straight with compound, especially if you don't have time to practice. So if you want to use compound, go straight to compound. You won't lose much in the fundamentals of recurve if you go straight to compound. On the other hand, people go from compound to recurve have a harder time. So if you want to shoot compound, shoot compound. I recommend that. Where was I? Oh, sorry, Play Hunter. Can awareness of your body, muscles, and attention in an experienced archer be so precise it can essentially replace a clicker? So basically, can you have enough muscle memory to replicate a clicker without using one? And that's a very good question. Theoretically, yes. And that's what barebow shooters, that's what trad shooters do. They have to pull back and expand continually to the point where they recognize that that's where they let go. The answer is yes, it is possible. The reason why clickers are universal in target archery is that it removes all doubt. Okay? With using your body is not a fine-tuned machine. Like you need exceptional training and experience, and even so, all right, you need to be so precise. You have to be within a millimeter of a complex body motion. So there is a much greater error margin when relying on your body to find the right spot. But like I said, this is what a traditional barebow shooter has to do anyway. They will never be as precise as a clicker, because the clicker will always go off at the same point. Assuming the same technique, same draw, same rhythm, it will always go off at the same point in your draw. That's why it is precision perfect. Without a clicker, you can replicate something very close to it, but you would never be as close as a clicker. So that's why we have clickers. We've answered the arrow sharpness question already. Let's get back to our questions. Bing. All right, man, we're only halfway through our Facebook too. Let's do some quick ones. Guillermo, I can't talk about limb material. That's something I can't really talk about because I don't know much about the material side of archery, so I might leave it to somebody else. Have I ever seen someone shoot their finger? I haven't seen someone do it personally, but I have heard of a case locally. Basically, what happened was he drew a compound bow. The arrow came off the wrist, and as with a lot of lazy compound shooters, instead of letting down and starting again, he decided to move the arrow tip with his finger back onto the wrist, accidentally punched the trigger, released the arrow, shot through his finger, had some stitches on his finger, but he kept on shooting the whole round because he's a boss. So the answer is, I haven't seen it personally, but I have heard some really wicked stories. Let's see. Here's a good one. Mal, can I use a compound sight for my recurve bow? Is there any difference? The answer is yes. Most compound sights can be mounted onto a recurve, but do bear in mind that the threads for the sight ring or the aperture will be different between compound and recurve. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind if you are using a compound sight. Now, if you're using one of those generic hunting sights, they can fit fine on both recurve and compound. If we're talking about the target sights, the one with magnified lenses, there are a few problems to keep in mind. The first, I guess the most important thing is having extra magnification doesn't really help a recurve archer. For a compound shooter who can hold at full draw thanks to the let-off of the bow, it is possible to hold still and align that sight and get the levels perfect before you release. You can't do that with a recurve. So there isn't actually that much to gain from using a compound sight on a recurve. You can technically put one on, but you wouldn't really benefit from doing so. Where was I? Hi Devil, thank you, I'm doing well. A visual clicker. Have I tried, as in look at the clicker, Gui? I did try it, that after I saw the Shoot Like Me series and several archers check the clicker, and by the way, this is in Keesik Lee's shot process. I've tried it, I can't make it work because I learned to use the clicker by feel, not by sight. So I can't look at the clicker and do my shot process. I don't have that control or training, so it doesn't work for me, so I don't do it. And not everyone does. Have I played around with the that thing, I have one. I haven't played around with it because it was given to me by a friend and a former archer who had it, and he actually cracked it. So I have the arrows and the device. I can showcase it, but I can't use it. I might buy a new one, but I don't have to use it, so no idea. But I've got one. Is the stabilizer necessary if I'm bowling? A stabilizer is there to stop you from talking the bow. It's not meant to balance the bow. That's a secondary thing. But the stabilizer is there to keep you from turning the bow on its axis. So yeah, if you're gonna shoot freestyle, then the stabilizer gives you a much more stable platform. But if you don't need a stabilizer, but it helps a ton. So that's my question there, answer. Alright, next. Hi James, by the way, glad you can join me. Next one, Teresa. Any tips for people who want to start up an archery club? Oh my goodness, this is a video in itself. Let's try a 30-second version. Okay, starting an archery club, you need a core of people, okay? Depends on what kind of club you want to be. Is it a private club, or is it a club associated with an archery association? Because different associations would have different requirements. For example, in Australia, to be affiliated with Archery Australia, like I'm wearing right now, your club needs to be a non-profit club. So a private business or a private archery range isn't a club. You can have membership of a private range, but basically the range needs to cover itself, its cost, its membership, and its insurance. For a public or a public club or a non-profit organization like most archery clubs in Australia, then they can't have like private ownership. It is a public organization or public incorporation. Okay, so that means there are rules you need to have. We need to have a constitution. We need to have elections. We need to have a board. We need to have roles. We need to have very defined things. You need people in the club who know how to run an organization. Okay, that's the big thing. So it isn't just about 3 or 4 people who really love archery, who want a place to shoot. If you want to have a long-term survival plan, basically, then you need to have an understanding of how organizations work. So check up the legislation and what you need to do to run a club. Again, private businesses are different, or private clubs are different, and public clubs like the amateur sporting clubs, they're also different as well. So that's I can't cover this in one live stream, but there are lots of things to consider. Like I said, depends on what kind of club you want to make, and you need people to run this like a proper organization, not just as a bunch of people who want to shoot. Oh yeah, sorry, Kevin, bylaws important to consider as well. You need laws for your club. You need a constitution. It's not just make a group, make a D&D group and hang out every Saturday. No, a proper club needs a proper treasurer. You can keep books. You can do accounting. You can do all these things because you can be audited, and you can't renew your incorporation. It's really messy stuff from the club side. And as a club president or former club president, I'll tell you this: very nasty stuff there. It's if you have enough people to do this and the right people, it can work really well. But if you have no idea, you might want to look for experience before anything else. There's a question from Arnest, by the way. What's my Facebook avatar meant to be? My Facebook avatar is the creature called Nu. It is a mysterious creature from Chrono Trigger, the SNES game, which has been ported over to a few different consoles. So it's an SNES. It's a beast which controls magic. It's called a Nu. And the quote from the game is from, I think it was Melchior, or was it Balthasar said this. All things begin with Nu and end with Nu. That's his quote. It's a bit of an in-joke for those who've been old enough or new enough to have played Chrono Trigger, one of the best Japanese RPGs ever made, and the best soundtracks. Sorry, Goy, I missed your question there. Oh, okay, that visual clicker. I have never done a visual clicker. Never. Not that I wouldn't try, but I just never come across it before. Yep, Chrono Trigger. Talk about triggers. Forget cycle triggers. Chrono Trigger. That is ace. You've got to play that game at some point in your life. and that's where the new comes from. It's not where my name comes from, but for April Fools, it was the Chrono Trigger new. Back to our questions. Man, it's nearly 10, and I haven't gone through my other questions yet. Alright, other ones. Rade, does shooting multiple styles of archery affect your proficiency in your main one, and how? Man, these guys are asking so many good questions. Holy crap. You're listening to the main theme from Chrono Trigger. No. Don't listen to the main theme. Listen to 600 AD. No, is it 600 AD? It's a name for it. The wind theme. The wind theme. Listen to that song. That is classic Frog's theme or Kairu's theme. And the wind theme or 600 AD. Those were the iconic theme. Look at every soundtrack in Chrono Trigger is freaking epic. That and Final Fantasy VI. So for those who love Squaresoft, old Squaresoft soundtracks, Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy VI. That's the trifecta from SNES. Here we go. Alright, so where was I? Sorry, do I play Far Cry 5? I used to play it. I finished it. Well, I did my video, my pop shots on Far Cry 5 already. Love the game. Very, very nice. But yeah, now those who play Chrono Trigger, whoo, yes. Alright, where was I? Bing. Back to my questions. It was sorry, the question was how do we affect how does training in a different discipline affect your main discipline? It shouldn't affect it. Like in terms of learning multiple styles, if I shoot Olympic, and then I shoot thumb draw, it shouldn't take away from my other style. I can shoot trad bear bow, horseback, and Olympic style with the same proficiency. If there's any reason for a loss in form or technique in one style, it would be because you spend less time practicing it. Okay, assume you have a finite amount of time to do archery, and it might be like an hour a day or it might be an hour a week. Now again, this is the reason why when people say do compound and recurve, do both. The reason why you don't do both isn't because you lose skill, but because of cost and time. Archery requires a lot of practice to maintain technique or maintain form. So if you neglect to practice one style, then you will see a drop in form, and that's generally true, right? So if you, for example, again, I've been shooting thumb draw a lot recently, but every day that I don't shoot Olympic recurve, I'm going to lose some of my form, and that is the problem. So will shooting different forms enhance your skill? So in some ways, but most forms are mostly parallel, so you won't see an increase in your Olympic form because you shoot thumb draw Mongolian, okay? So that won't be a direct causation. But if you choose to practice multiple styles and you don't dedicate enough time to maintain a different style, then yes, you can lose some of that. Question from James. Moving from indoors to outdoors has massively affected my shooting in a negative way. It's like I can't execute properly in one area without missing another. Yes, indoor is a very different beast. One is there's wind, okay, in outdoor. So that's one thing. But here's the thing. Outdoor shooting is going to feel slightly different because if you only shoot indoor, you are used to standing in a position with your shoulders in a certain way that will be perfect for 18 meters. Once you go to outdoor, you have to do something called lifting your bow up, and that can be very confusing. And in fact, for people who shoot outdoor, people shooting 30 meters might, people who shoot 70 meters might struggle at 30 meters because at 70 meters you're used to a particular alignment. I'll show you where possible. All right, I'm gonna kind of do this. Okay, so yep. So when you shoot at 70 meters, you don't do this. Most of your picture perfect form will look like this, perfectly like aligned shoulders, and you're anchoring, you're shooting at 70 at long distance. But if you are shooting at long distance, you're not doing this. You're doing this. Okay. So when you draw, you're doing something slightly different. So one, you're bending at the hip. Secondly, you're actually loading more on your muscle over here. So there's a slightly different weight engagement. So there's more on this part of your lower back than normal. And for a lot of people, this motion is a bit more stable and easier than others. And then you shoot at shorter distances and you have to pull back down, and it feels very weird because you're no longer on the stable platform on your back foot. You're basically back in your even 50-50 weight distribution, and there's less of this lower back kind of muscle here. So shooting outdoor is physically a bit different from shooting close range indoor. So if you have that experience where it feels so weird that you can't shoot properly, that is not surprising. You're actually using slightly different muscles, which might sound weird, but because you have to bend and lean, then yes, it would be slightly different. You are welcome, Rade, for that question. That's a good question too, by the way. And hopefully that answers your question, James, so that I do have a similar experience. I'll get to your player question later, Player Hunter, because I've got like 10,000 more to get through before the stream ends. Alright, here we go. So that was, alright, Dawn. What about the actual weight of the bow? I've been seeing a person draw weight instead of actual bow weight, and if it would really make a difference. I would think that the heavier the harder, at least at first. Yes. So everyone talks about draw weight, but not the bow weight. There's a reason why we talk about draw weight, because the bow, unless it weighs like 50 kilograms, everyone can lift a bow. Most bows weigh about 1 kilogram to about 1.5 for the really heavy metal bows. So lifting a bow isn't a problem. The problem is when you start putting stabilizers, because that really makes a bow feel heavier, but it feels more stable. But the reason people talk about draw weight is because that's more important. If you can't pull the string back, then you can't use the bow. Everyone can lift a bow. Bows are not heavy. Bows are very light. You know, I'm holding like the same Sage here. You know, same Sage is what, 900 grams? It's less than a kilogram. So bows are light. That's why no one talks about weight. The only reason we talk about weight for bows is if you need to have a particular weight for your bow. Because people who shoot bare bow may want to have a heavier riser. Because a heavier riser is not harder to use. It's in fact easier to use. Light bows, lightweight bows, and hold in the hand, are easier for beginners because beginners are more timid. They'll hold the bow in a more ginger way. They'll be very careful, a bit too cautious. So light bows are very helpful, especially for young people. But anyone can use a bow. Heavier bows are actually easier because it's going to sit in the hand with less movement. For Olympic freestyle, you need to have stabilizers to achieve the same effect, and it's a better effect. But for heavy bare bow risers, a heavy riser, by virtue of being heavy, is going to move less. It actually makes it easier to use. Especially again, a lot of new bows, like beginner bows or intermediate bows, tend to be on the heavy side to mitigate some of that beginner drift. As you become more confident and more experienced in shooting, then you have more control over your fine muscle movement. So a lighter riser might be more balanced for them. But that's why people don't talk about the bow weight, because the bow weight isn't that important. Alright, and I think we reached our last question. Hey, Morton's here. Oh, this is a great question, Morton, by the way. I was looking at this one. I'll do Jed first. Can a Whisker biscuit arrow rest be used on recurve? The answer is yes, you can use a Whisker rest on a recurve bow. It isn't the best choice for one, but you can use one, and some people do. I want to talk about this one, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is actually one of my favorite questions, which I'll have, and I'll spend a lot of time on this question. I don't want to, but I do want to, with so much time I have. Alright, I need some juice for this. Dunning-Kruger. Actually, my response can be disappointing. It's actually not that complex, but the idea is good. So, the Dunning-Kruger effect. For those who don't know, the Dunning-Kruger effect is basically a psychological phenomenon. It's they call it an illusory bias, where people who aren't very skilled think they are more skilled than they actually are. And people who are very skilled, who are very competent, think they aren't as skilled. It's kind of that reverse effect. So again, people who aren't that skilled think they are much better than they actually are. And people who are very good will put themselves down and think they're not as good. So what effect does that have in archery? That is a very good question. Now, in my opinion, in my general opinion, this doesn't really affect archery that much. And the reason is, archery has an objective system of scoring. The better you score, the better you are. That's a much easier way to back up how good you are, is we're looking at points or ratings or rankings. Where this breaks down is when people are shooting in a system or style that doesn't record scores. Now, nearly every formal style of archery, whether you shoot Western, Olympic recurve, compound, traditional, nearly every style has some way to measure ability level. The people who are most affected by the idea of this phenomenon is when people don't measure themselves, and this is your generic backyard archer. Someone who shoots a big target in the backyard, they might shoot bottles or cans. So someone who has no way to measure. And the reason why I say this, and I say this a lot in my channel, is that you get people who say, I shoot really well, I shoot fine. I don't drop my bow, I shoot fine. I don't use sights, I shoot fine. I don't use stabilizers, I shoot fine. And this is kind of a thing where, what do you mean by I shoot fine? And a lot of people who are put on the spot for this thing, they will never substantiate their grouping size or their distance or their score because they don't measure these things. Therefore, they will say that, oh yeah, I shoot really well, but they're not as good, or they can't prove they're as good. It's a slightly different thing, but it's tied to the Dunning-Kruger effect, because people who are probably, I'm saying they're definitely short, but they're probably average or below average, are saying they shoot really well, whereas you don't have the reverse effect, because people who are really good, they only say they're really good because they've got things to back it up. So they actually are very good. Right? It's unlikely that someone shooting at top level with very high scores and world records and national team selection will think they're not very good. Okay, so I think it's not so much present in archery, but I think it's more that blissful ignorance that affects the bottom end or the below average end. So people who are outside formal training is more likely going to be susceptible to thinking they are better than they actually are, because again, for a casual archer, that as long as they see themselves hitting the target, thank you, James, you just got me right there as well. Yeah, I can hit my target bag from 20 meters. I don't use sights or stabilizers, therefore I'm not cheating, therefore I'm good. And I think that's where the effect is most present, is when you see yourself hitting the target, you recognize that you are good. But for those who actually train and compete, they don't see the target or hitting the target, they see the score. The score and the rating and the ranking will dictate whether someone is good or not. So again, these skilled archers will probably recognize this and not be affected by the Dunning-Kruger effect as badly, whereas the casual archers and kids, as I think Kevin pointed out, are more likely to have that inflated sense of ego. Whew. All right. Very good question, Morton. That's a very good point there. Nice. It's a nice thing to look up, the Dunning-Kruger effect. So it's something I recognize a lot in sports, and people in general. Just like as a life thing. But yeah, that in archery, probably not a big deal for most people unless you're self-taught and you're casual and you don't have anything to do to score. And that's the final Facebook question. Holy hell, that was a long Facebook feed. Now, let's go on to the YouTube side. Let's do a bunch of more questions down there. So, let's go through the YouTube questions. Whew. Man. Okay, let's go. Abdul Haq. You are from Algeria. Alright, I've already mentioned the archery club thing, okay? But this is more for the equipment and staff to run a small archery club. This is a... we are asking really hard questions. Why don't I choose to do it tonight? Man, it's 10 o'clock and I'm trying to figure out what to do. Okay. How do we start an archery club? So, you need... just off the top of my head, you need the right facilities. You need a field or indoor space to use. You need the targets, either commercial ones or make your own. That means you need to either think about buying them is expensive stuff, but you can make your own using plastic or straw. But you need to look up how to make your own targets. You of course need to have bows, lots of bows, especially for kids. Light draw weights. Okay, you need lots of arrows, and with a club, arrows are highly expendable. You will break them, you will lose them, so you can't just buy a finite amount. You need to buy lots of arrows and continually buy arrows. Next, you need to make sure you have the right safety equipment. And depending on your style of archery, I'm not sure in Algeria whether the Western style is more popular, but you need like gloves or finger tabs, and you need arm guards, especially because kids will hit themselves on the arm very easily. Arm guards and finger tabs. And that's basically it, and the rest is just spare parts. You need to make sure you have enough arrows, arrow points, arrow nocks, vanes, tools to repair your arrows, tools to make arrows from different parts, and other things to keep your things working fine. It's also staff. Make sure your staff know how to shoot. Just give them a basic course. You need to have enough staff to run the line. I recommend like maybe for our instructor course, the ratio is kind of like one instructor for every like 3 or 4 students. That's impossible for most clubs. So like maybe 1 to 10. But you need really good people who can work with people. Not so much good archers, but people who know how to work with people, especially kids. That's a special skill in itself. Thank you, Nathan, by the way. I agree. One problem with the Dunning-Kruger effect is that people take knowledge for granted. The worst case of this, or the most typical case in archery, is people will say that, oh, it only takes 5 minutes of Google searching to learn archery. Bullcrap. Let's take 5 minutes. It doesn't take 5 minutes. That's stupid. That is absolutely stupid. If it took 5 minutes to learn archery, why are we teaching archery? Why would we make 1,000 archery videos to teach people? It doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes time to show you. It takes someone 20 minutes to show they shoot properly, and like hours or weeks and months to do it properly, do it well. So yeah, that's one problem. Alright, next. Okay. We're making progress. Casper, if the opportunity arose, would you ever try mounted archery? Yeah. I don't ride horses. I think it would be really cool. Though I doubt it's something I would maintain. Especially because I'm an urban, potato. Like, I don't really go out and experience the great outdoors. I think it would be cool. I would like to learn, but I doubt it's something I would take too seriously. It's kind of like people go bungee jumping. I might do horse archery, because I have enough fundamentals. Once I learn to ride a horse, I wouldn't mind to learn to shoot from a horse. But I doubt it's something I can do really, really well. And for me, like one of my personality quirks is that I don't do something unless I know I can become good at it. Now, that means anything, yeah? But for me, if I don't seriously think that I can become proficient through dedication, then I probably wouldn't pick it up. I don't like trying new things that I think I might try once and drop. If it's something that I have an appeal for, I might try it, and I'll keep on doing it until I become better. That's why archery is one of my appeals, because I can commit. I can become better. It's within what I think, within reasonable effort. Though that's to be seen, but I believe I can. So horse archery is interesting, but I wouldn't really stick with it. That's kind of my main thing. Sitting on a truck and shooting arrows isn't the same as riding a horse, because half of horse archery is riding a horse. Shooting from a moving platform isn't the same as shooting from horseback. Derek, good question. What made me choose Recurve over Compound? I didn't like the technical side of Compound. I saw Compound shooters shoot, and I saw half their time Compound shooters are tinkering with their bows, or trying to find the right synchronization for the cams and getting the right rest, and it was too technical for me. I mean, people who like muck around with like motorcycles or with computers might enjoy it more, but I like the simplicity of Recurve more than Compound. It's why the bow I enjoy shooting most is traditional bear bow, either Western style or Eastern style. I love the simplicity of just having a bow and flinging arrows. Olympic Recurve, one, because my club is mostly Olympic Recurve and my coach kind of pushed everyone to shoot Olympic Recurve. That is probably the extent of what I've enjoyed from being technical. There's enough like engineering and science and physics and magic to enjoy modern Recurve without being too fixated on tuning and feet per second. So that's why I like Recurve more than Compound. Compound is too technical. It takes away from what I enjoy from archery. It's just shooting a bow. Olympic Recurve is pushing that tolerance. I'm okay with that. And I really enjoy trad. Trad is just simple, is where it's at. But I do understand why people shoot Olympic Recurve, and it's why I shoot it as well. So that's why I chose Recurve. I didn't like playing around with just everything. Didn't appeal to me. Riding on a kangaroo, I loved it, by the way. Nice. You've got an allowance from wood archery to shoot thumb draw in competition. That's interesting. You'd like to use a thumb ring. That's what I'm curious about. Because in the past I've mentioned that thumb rings have been excluded from the rule set. I'm curious if you're allowed to use a thumb ring. What about longbows? Longbows are good too. I mean, I haven't shot too many longbows, so that's why I didn't really comment on longbows. I just recently shot longbows. Longbows are fun too, actually. Longbows are really good. I think I personally lean more towards the speed and performance of a recurve, whereas a longbow is easy to shoot or be gentle to shoot. So I'm more towards that performance. So I lean more towards that. All right. Back to our questions. Shit, that's so many questions. This is the one who... It will only get worse, right? Because we're growing. We're like 70,000 viewers right now, subscribers. We're going to get so many more questions. Miyu, correct set of a plunger. This is probably the most asked question. I don't want to do it. Like, plunger tuning is like, yeah, I just get it right, and I didn't really think about it, so I didn't really have any tips for plunger tuning. I might talk about it one day, but just make sure that your arrow is pointing slightly off center, not too much. The plunger isn't too soft or too stiff. And make sure your padding is correct. If you have too little packing with the arrow rest, then it might not have enough clearance for the arrow. So and vice versa. Can't really mention that. Hafiz, my thumb joint felt like it was going to come off and doing a thumb draw. Why did this happen? The thumb draw. Thumb draw, thumb. What kind of things? Are you doing it right first? Okay, so think about first, are you doing it correctly? Are you using the right equipment? And so on. Now, first time I did thumb draw, yeah, it hurt like hell, man. Like, that you put so much pressure on one thumb, especially if you shoot a higher draw weight. Good, that is a lot of weight on one finger. I would not be surprised if you initially felt like you're dislocating your thumb. It does take time to build up strength in your thumb to shoot thumb draw. I will say this as someone doing thumb draw right now. There. It's not you, it's the way thumb draw works. And people shoot with Mediterranean who have sore fingers until they build calluses on their fingers. I still have calluses, even wearing a finger tab. So you need to build up finger strength. And this is important in archery. No matter if you shoot Mediterranean or thumb draw, you do need finger strength. Yeah, possibly a loose thumb ring. Yeah, that's not surprising. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, it's mostly because you need finger strength. Even things like piano, for example, you need finger strength to play piano. So I'd imagine that if I get back to playing piano, I'd be very good at playing piano with my right hand because I have no finger strength on my left. I've got like skinny fingers. I've got like strong fingers in this one here. So yeah, no, it's most likely because you're not used to the weight of the bow on your finger or fingers. That's what I think. A couple of quick questions in chat for now. Oh yeah, the Far Cry bow. Yeah, like it's weird because in Far Cry, yeah, the Recurve is the strongest bow. I mean the Recurve was always in the game from Far Cry 3, 4, and that was like the best bow because there were like one bow or two bows. I find it kind of weird that compound is the starter bow. It makes more sense to have a compound as a survival bow, but it's weird that the Recurve is stronger. Yes. Oh, actually no, the Recurve isn't stronger. It's faster. It's the final upgrade, but it's the same strength as the compound, but the speed of the slingshot. So it's kind of weird, but it's a game thing. Like games don't put labels and draw weights; they just give you stats. And I can live with that. It's weird though. Where was I? Honest, has anyone used pinch draw? Why would someone use pinch draw at all? Like beyond like a light draw weight, why would you use a pinch draw? It gives you the least control. It's the smoothest release, yes, but it gives you the least control. I mean, you could try a secondary draw or tertiary draw, but the Mediterranean draw gives you the most control out of any form. So you would not make it to the Olympics with a pinch draw. That's final. Like nobody's used pinch draw. I mean, look at the 1950s World Champions. Everyone's shooting Mediterranean. They might be shooting longbows, yes, but they're shooting Mediterranean. Pinch draw doesn't work for precision shooting. It's too weak. You need the people shooting thumb draws were like ancient Greeks or Scythians or something. People were drawing to their chest with light bows, going pew pew. Remember my video about unskilled archers? That's the idea. You would shoot like like very loose draw. There'd be no anchor point. There'd be no technique. Well, there'd be some technique, but you'd be literally just flinging arrows. It wouldn't work in Olympic recurve. You would not score. We tried, by the way, at our club. I taught people to the pinch draw, and we had some fun doing it. But we couldn't shoot more than like 10 meters because we couldn't draw all the way. But we just like let go and at half draw, and it'll fly toward the target 20 meters away. So it was really really hard. Sorry, Derek. I'm using double-sided tape as my arrow rest to not scratch my ceramic sage. It's not going to make me inaccurate. Well, double-sided tape. I'm not sure what you mean. Like using double-sided tape as my arrow rests. Huh. I'm not sure if I had the whole picture here. I might be missing exactly what you're describing there. My thoughts on Armin's video on rotational draw. I feel the same way with Armin's video as I do about Greg from 3D Archery, Archery 101. Maybe my understanding of rotational draw is different. All right, I look more into the angler draw as taught by Kisik Lee and the best method, or the NTS method, which isn't really rotation. The rotation is core rotation, and it refers more to the pivot points around the neck and the shoulder. So there's more rotation happening here and from the core. I feel that Armin responded to Greg, but I don't think Greg necessarily described it particularly well. And I feel Armin's building on what I think is not quite the right description of rotational draw. I think the best description is An Mo, who's a level 4 American coach. I think he describes it best, and he shoots bare bow as well. As I don't think the other videos from Armin and from Greg are as accurate as An Mo's. So that's why I think it's a little and I think it's quite spot on. But we're building on clarification on a video which might not be as clear as I think it would be. Yes, James, I know. Andrew, I was gonna do it yesterday, but I kind of wasted the whole day yesterday doing stuff. Probably tomorrow or the weekend at least. Hmm. All right. Okay. Next question. Competing thumb draw. Yeah. No, it's my idea. It wasn't a club thing. It's basically me and a few others trying to do this. Okay. All right. Let's go to our next question. By the way, thumb draws isn't dumb. Okay. I don't think anybody has the right to call a whole style dumb, because every technique has its faults and its flaws. So no, I would not agree with you, Morton. I think you're in the wrong there. If the thumb style is dumb, why did half the world use it? And why did the Eastern styles conquer most of the world with thumb draw? There were practical reasons for it. It wasn't a technique that's superior. It was a technique born of necessity. And to call it dumb, I think, is completely ignorant of the history of the technique and how it's done. So that's my opinion. Questions. Yeah, thumb. Yeah, finger strength. Better ways to build a finger strength. Just keep on doing it, really. It just takes time. You can't have a shortcut to finger strength. You just keep on doing it over a long period of time. Like I said, don't punish yourself by using super heavy bows, but let it happen gradually. It will take time. Let's see. Looking to get an IOF bow. I'm seeing a lot of talk on several forums about how a smaller IOF riser increases the listed draw weight. Yes, it does. I was under the assumption that all bows are rated at draw under 20. Okay, all right. This is a good question for it. So you are correct in that the draw length of 28 inches is the standard for measuring a bow. But if you're using IOF, if you have like IOF, let's assume you have a 25-inch riser and they have a standard 68-inch bow. So that will be a 40-pound at 28-inch on a 25-inch riser. If you have a 23-inch riser, then you will have a different draw weight, because the bow is shorter. The limbs are coming in a different angle. You're pulling it back a different angle. So the draw weight will be slightly different. Yes. And if you have a 17-inch riser, the same limbs, it's even, the angle is more acute. So it's a sharper angle with the draw, smaller bow, which means like the limbs will come back at a different angle. That's why on the limbs, it often will state two different lengths. One for 27-inch and one for 25-inch riser. Okay, so yes, the weight is measured at 28 inches, but if you change the shape or size of the bow, then it will also change the draw weight. So that's why if you have a different length riser, it will have a different draw weight. Shorter risers mean that the limbs will come back sharper and sooner, which is why they'll have a heavier draw weight. Likewise, longer bows will generally have a lower draw weight for the same limbs, the same draw length. Okay, what else are we doing? So it's a question missed before that. Just for rotational draw, I feel the confusion comes from what's rotating, if anything else. The reason why I somewhat disagree with the interpretation is that the way that's shown, whether intentionally or not, has a lot of hip movement. Okay, so people like when somebody demonstrates have shown this, they start like forward face nearly, and then they draw backwards like this. To me, there's too much torso rotation. The way I explained it, and the way I understand this, is that it's more. I've got a bow here. What the hell am I using this? Okay, so instead of doing this push pull and then rotating your hip, waist, and or chest, the way I'm seeing it done is like standing there. I see them do this, so that you're actually rotating your whole body to get that draw, and I see how it might work, but to me, it's poor form because your shoulder's out of position. So you're forcing this into your front shoulder. And you're pushing it out. So it can work. That's a lot of movement for a simple action. My understanding of angular draw or rotational draw is that this stays in position, but what rotates is this motion, okay? Or this motion coming up like that. So you don't rotate your hips, but you tense your core and you let that do the work instead. So that's kind of my understanding of rotational draw, is that movement, not this movement. So that's why I think the confusion or the ambiguity is at. But you know, I don't fully understand rotational draw. I didn't learn it, so what do I know, right? Phew. Oh, good question from Andrew. My plans for the channel. I plan to retire War Thunder soon because I've done nearly every tank, so I'm nearly done. The Q&As will happen. I want to do more live Q&As, but I'm not sure what else I'll do. Like, there'll be more chance for me to cover more archery material. But I also want to cover an education side or a teacher blog side because this is my 10th year of teaching. I want to kind of offload some of the experience of what I've gathered so far. So that's kind of why I want to expand a bit more, but I have no real plans. Alright, skipping through some questions there. Let's see. I haven't seen Crispin Dunis's Shoot Like Me yet. But he does talk about the the weight distribution. A lot of the weight distribution depends on the individual. There are different ways being taught. I personally prefer more of the 40, 50, 10 side, or the might be the 30, 40, 20. That doesn't add up, does it? Sorry, 40, 30, 40. No, probably like, yeah, probably 30, 50, 20. So it depends on what I feel like, but I tend to put more weight on my middle finger and my top finger and very little on my bottom finger. So everyone's slightly different, and different finger tabs are better suited for different techniques. Alright, let's jump to our next question for now. Let's see. Okanan. My question was, when practicing shooting at a length of 70 meters, is variation more beneficial? I mean this in terms of shooting at different distances versus a repeated shot at particular distances. Does that make sense? Okay, I get that. Okay. So, if you're shooting outdoor, would it make sense to continually shoot at 70 meters? And it does. Now, would you benefit from shooting at varied distances? Shooting at variable distances or different distances will not necessarily make you better at 70 meters. It might make you more well-rounded as an archer, so you can shoot at mid-range and long-range and short-range indoor. So it makes you well-rounded. But shooting 18-meter indoor doesn't make you better at 70-meter outdoor, and vice versa, because they're kind of different things. So most people who shoot outdoor rounds will shoot most distances anyway, because most rounds will cover everything from 30 to 70 meters or 90 meters. So you will do so anyway, and it is a bit of a challenge to go from long distance to short distance, because you have different target sizes, different ratios of size to distance, and so on. But it doesn't make you a better shooter at long distance. So should you? Well, why not? You know, shooting the same distance all the time can be a little boring. But again, most clubs will have different rounds where they shoot different distances. The standard ranking round today for Olympic archery is the 70-720, which is a 70-meter round, 72 arrows. And many clubs will run a double 720, so that's 140 arrows, which gives you 2 ranking rounds. So it can get pretty tedious, but it's a standard distance round. So yeah, like you kind of have to balance between shooting like club rounds versus shooting official ranking rounds. And really, if you are competent enough to shoot at long distance, then you don't really need to shoot anything other than 70 meters unless you are doing a club competition. Okay. Next question comes from Doggle. You emailed me. Okay. I'm not sure if it answers if I ignored it, but I can't remember what it was. Elia sent, have you considered making your own bow? No. I'm not a hands-on person. I don't have any enjoyment in making my own bow. Now, this doesn't mean I don't like creating things. I am more of a writer and a visual artist. I'm not really into building things. So things like Lego or woodwork or leatherwork don't really appeal to me. I like designing things. I don't like making things. That's kind of my personality trait. Next up. The most beginner-friendly compound bow. I would, yeah, Diamond Infinite Edge is probably a thing. So the thing with a beginner-friendly bow is a bow that is light enough to use and you can adjust and grow with. That's why the Diamond Infinite Edge, and there are several others which is very similar, is very recommended. They have a very high level of adjustment. I would not recommend a Genesis because a Genesis is not a proper compound. A zero let-off Genesis is basically just a 20-pound recurve bow, but instead of having the bow feel harder as you draw back, it's consistently 20-pound all the way. So to me, I feel that the Genesis is a good bow for beginners for a club, because a club can give anyone a Genesis and they can use it just fine. Whereas if a recurve has to be the right size and the right draw length and the right bow size and the right arrow spine, there's more variables to factor in for a club. Whereas a club that has to give bows out to like 50 people, they say, here's a Genesis, shoot it, and it works fine. Genesis arrows, Genesis bow, easy match. So it's more practical to train lots of people to use a Genesis bow. But if you're buying a bow for yourself, I don't really think that you should be using a Genesis bow. It doesn't give you a good impression of compound because compounds don't work that way, and it doesn't give you an impression of recurve because recurves don't work that way. Quick question from Luca. Easton ACEs are very good arrows. I used to use them for about 3-4 years before I used X10s. They used to be the best arrow at competitive level. It was the ACC or the ACG and then the ACE. That was the best one in the 1980s and 1990s. The X10s took over afterwards. So they're still very good arrows, and competitively, people still like using ACEs because they're slightly cheaper than X10s and they do somewhat better at short distance and low wind. X10s have a better wind profile, so if you're shooting in crosswind, the X10 will drift less. But the ACE is often a better choice for field 3D if you can afford losing them, and short distance sometimes. And I've heard some people will carry both X10s and ACEs and choose which one to use based on the conditions on the day. But ACEs are very good arrows. I reckon they're second tier to X10s, so they're super, super good. Back to my questions. It's 10:30 now. Wow, about an hour and a half. Phew. Okay, Daniel. When using stabilizers, which can hold a lot of weight, does it help stabilizing the bow adding a lot of weight, or is there a point it stops becoming beneficial? Yes. A couple of things to keep in mind. If you put too much weight on a stabilizer, it can crack, especially the cheaper ones, because they're not meant to handle that much weight. I've seen people put a lot of weight. As long as it's balanced, all you're doing is adding more mass, basically. Okay, so a heavier bow should be more stable. The counterpoint is how stable are you in controlling this weight? Okay, so you could make it a heavier bow, but if you put too much weight where lifting the bow is tiresome, then you've defeated the purpose of putting weight on your stabilizers. Alright, next up. What equipment differences exist between outdoor and indoor target practice? There's no difference. If there's any difference, it's going to be the arrows. Indoor target arrows are often chosen to be thicker in diameter because when shooting indoor, you shoot at a smaller target face, and therefore you will want to have more line cutters. But if you shoot outdoor, then the thicker arrows will be more susceptible to wind drift, so it's less desirable there. A lot of people will use their outdoor arrows indoor because they've got a good tune, so they don't want to ruin that. But a lot of archers will have a separate bow or setup just for indoor indoor arrows. Do I rank my arrows? Okay, I don't. I know some people do, but I don't rank my arrows. No, and especially for entry level, don't bother. Like this, like the people who will like rank arrows will do things like measure the exact point weight and the exact shaft weight to make sure every arrow is as uniform as possible, because it does make a difference. But that's only at the very highest level. Even then, a lot of people don't care and they'll shoot just fine. But some people who care a lot will in fact measure things precisely. But if you're just getting entry level carbon, don't bother, because if there's any inconsistency, it's not the arrow, it's you. Next question. Oh, EJ Valdez. Do indoor shooters use bows with lighter draw weights, considering the short distance and minimal wind drift? A lot of indoor questions. The answer is no, not really. A lot of people shoot indoor will shoot lighter draw weights because they started indoor, so they started learning archery and growing into archery indoor. So they'll carry through the light draw weights and shoot indoor and light draw weights. You don't need a heavy draw weight to shoot indoor. But do bear in mind, even at 18 meters or 20 yards, arrows will drop. So you will still want a decently heavy bow because it will fly flatter. Therefore, there'll be less, there's no drift, but flat trajectory is a bit easy to use, especially on a small target face. So straight line, point blank, very easy to do. So people don't drop draw weight typically for indoor. They'll shoot the same draw weight because, again, for the competitive archers, they're shooting one draw weight for everything: field, target, outdoor, and indoor. So why change for a different format? Because there's no benefit to changing. They probably want to keep everything as similar as possible. That's why you typically see outdoor equipment indoor, but they wouldn't use a lighter draw weight because, again, if you're shooting at a level where you're competing in competition, so if you're draw weight, then it assumes that you have full control of the bow. This isn't like someone who's shooting Olympic style can barely use an Olympic level draw weight and then get to a lighter bow indoor. They can shoot a 40-pound, 45-pound bow, even a 50-pound bow all day, every day, 7 days a week, and be completely fine. If you can do that, you don't need a lot to draw weight. So you will probably use the benefit of the flatter trajectory for indoor. Alright, next question. Have you ever tried compound? No, I haven't. I've held compound. I haven't shoot compound. Obviously, in my previous question, I don't feel like I like the tinkering of a compound. People have tried to really like egg me into trying a compound. I just don't find the appeal in it. I just don't. I'm not happy using a compound. Let's put it that way. Nick Brown, is it possible to fit a clicker to a wooden riser? The answer is yes, you can. A lot of the original, remember, clickers were originally invented for wooden bows. If you look at the 1980s, you'll see clickers on wooden bows. Some may have bushings to screw into, or you can make your own. A lot of clickers are stick-on. So it's basically a strong tape. You stick it on, and it clicks. The answer is yes. Works fine. Ever silence the bow? No. Beyond using the rabbit fur string silencers, I haven't really silenced a bow, and this is because I bought my second hand from like Grizzly Jim Lucius. So I have a bow which is quite well silenced, but I myself have not silenced the bow. And the last question from Lucius Danesh: I don't have any tips for tying a kisser knot on your bowstring. So I have no experience in using a kisser. I've seen it done, but I haven't used it myself. Okay. Wow, that wasn't 1 hour and a half. That was quite a long stream. That's a lot of questions. And it will only get worse, wouldn't it, right? So, okay, I'm going to sign off soon because I've got some stuff to do for school. So, we'll take our last batch of live questions. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask now or hold your silence until next month. And by the way, like I said, if you want to send me a form check, feel free to email me. I'll look at the form checks in a separate video. But yeah, we'll take our final questions. Oh wow, I'm gonna lose my voice at this rate. I've done a lot of casting the last few days. Oh, yeah, flood me with questions, quick. Whew, I didn't shoot much today, but I did a lot of thumb draw, like rapid fire, and I'm just kind of feeling it. Some shooting's better than no shooting. Honestly, I was going to plan doing SBTs. Here's an idea that I wanted to play around with, right? I wanted to try SPTs and chill. Because I'm not making strings much anymore, because the demand's over. But I want to do more SBT training. And that's pretty tedious. It's like a half an hour to an hour, right? But I stream for like an hour anyway. So I could do SPTs while chilling in chat. And you can probably see me suffer agonizingly through SPTs. Because holy hell, they hurt. I could do some right now, but I don't feel like it. I don't have my glove here, so I can't really do it anyway. It really hurts. Not very nice. Discord. I don't want to do Discord. Honestly, I'm not really into community building. Like I don't have I have a Twitter account, but I barely use it. You know, my Facebook's kind of small. I'm not under the illusion that I can create community around myself. Archery is very niche. I doubt there is enough demand for a Discord channel. Apart from 2 or 3 people who are very vocal, I doubt that I will have much presence. I mean, look, the Archery subreddit Discord, it's probably the largest Discord for Archery. It's pretty empty and it's very fragmented. So that's not going very well in my opinion. So if the Archery subreddit is already random and poorly monitored, what do I do, right? I mean, I'm not going to watch this. I don't use Discord myself. I mean, I've logged on a few times, but I don't use it. It's not part of my own routine, so I would have no attachment to someone using Discord. I could appoint moderators, but, you know, I'd rather not deal with this. Personally, and it's just me, right? This is something I do out of my own time. And I don't want to build a cult of personality around me. I don't want a community around me. I'm given to community. Alright, so I don't want the community to owe me anything. I don't want someone to kind of, mate, this is the NUSensei Discord, you know, subscribe to my Patreon and so on. I don't want to do that. I'm not in a position where I need to do that, and I don't want to do that. Arguably, there's a wave of YouTubers who are well right to do so, but who thrive and survive only on the generosity and the popularity they get from their viewers. And I don't want that. SPT, like we should do SPTs to everybody, yeah. Now, like I said before, I don't feel like I want to be that kind of person where you need me. I don't want that. You don't need me, right? I'm just here to share my passion, to share what I love about learning, to, you know, to learn alongside you, and not make a community on Discord or anywhere else which kind of needs me to be their idol. I don't want to be, you know, like, you know, a figurehead. I don't want to be, you know, anything more than someone who just enjoys sharing what they learn. So I mean, like, the thing is, like, at any point, I want to pull the plug and be able to do so. And I can do so tomorrow. I can do so today. If I want to, like, not make videos, I want to disappear for a month or a year, and I don't want people to kind of say, oh, I'm keep making videos, because YouTubing isn't a lifestyle that I like. Alright, same as streaming. People say, like, why don't you make a Twitch channel? I don't want to be a typical streamer. Even this is kind of pushing it, right? I don't want to spend all my life making content to validate my existence. And I think that's a line which I would draw. I don't want to make too much social media or community where, like, I have to maintain everything, I have to log in and check everything. It's already hard enough with, you know, Twitter and Facebook and emails and YouTube, of course. That's a lot of work. And anything which sounds like work, why would I do that? Okay, I already give enough as it is. So that's why I don't want to make a Discord, because again, it'll start with like 2 or 3 people and it'll stay at around 10. Like I said, I'm under no illusion that I'm a superstar that's going to be really popular and that people will flood my Discord channel. That's not how it works. I know that. Alright, I'm not that naive to think I can make a Twitter account and have like 1,000 followers and right away. Or, you know, look, in my Facebook page, like 3,000. That's pretty small compared to my YouTube channel. I started on YouTube. I'll probably like end this way on YouTube, and I have no interest in expanding beyond that. People can come to me. I'm not gonna go somewhere else. All right. So that's my kind of my little spiel about stuff. How's my club doing? It's doing well right now. Though I did attend a rather secret meeting with certain people, and I'm a little less optimistic after all that. I've got an insight over future plans, and I'm a little less. So for now, doing really well. We're getting more members, more training, more events. So the club is live. It's alive now, which is a really good place to be. And I'm hoping that the people in the power seats see this. You know, it's not just about a few people in a clubhouse shooting, you know, arrows, but we're a community center. But people don't see it that way. Sorry, Kevin, I got your question before. Should I make a Facebook page? Yes. Don't wait. Like, any social media. This is okay. Speaking of YouTube channels and building skills, well, I know I'm not a club president. I didn't stand for president last year. I thought someone else should have a go, so I didn't do it. Back to what I was saying before. Kevin, good social media or YouTube channel building stuff. Okay, yes. Any social media that you intend to use, start sooner, not later. Right? So if you want to create a Facebook page, do so right away, because these things will grow alongside your channel. You might not have a large following early on. Okay? You might have one person who follows you on Facebook and one person on Twitter, and no one knows who you are. But the more you have these social media outlets, the more visible you become. I'll give you an example, okay? It's faster to share things on Facebook than it is on YouTube. On YouTube, it relies on people to be subscribed to get notifications to watch your content. For example, when you upload a video, I don't click the bell, by the way. So I don't like receiving notifications because I watch YouTube regularly. So what happens is that when I check my YouTube feed, then I'll watch the videos that appear to me in order that I like. So it's not easy to share on YouTube. Now, recently there's been some changes. You can share on YouTube, but I feel that is currently an under-marketed feature which nobody knows about. So it's easy to share on Facebook because everyone's already connected with their friends. People, the things that they comment and they like and tag will appear on their own feeds and in public. So good example is I can the dry-fire video. When I derailed the ET4 Mong Yuanbo, I made like a 5-second video for my Facebook page, and that got like 5,000 views in 24 hours, which is it was shared by like 10,000 people, so like 20,000 people. It went like nearly, it wasn't viral, but for Facebook, for a small Facebook page, again, everyone who likes the video will be seen by all their friends. Everyone who shares the video will be seen by all their friends. That will get me far more immediate viral attention, if it's really good, than a video on YouTube. When I make memes, they spread quickly because they're so easy to consume. Yeah, it's the consumer which really needs this. YouTube is like, it's a consumer, but you go to YouTube to get your buzz. With Facebook, you get that in your face. So it's easy to make a meme or a video and share it. So, you know, it's Facebook and Twitter are easy places to share content. YouTube is a good place to host content. So the point being is that if you are making your channel, Kevin, I know you are, and you're doing a good job too, by the way. When you build your social media, the plan is, if you seriously want to grow a community or have a following, then you should invest time in maintaining social media. Me personally, I made my Facebook page much later than my YouTube channel. I made my Twitter like 3 months ago, and these things grow differently. Again, I've got 72,000 on YouTube, about 4,000 on Facebook, and about 50 on Twitter. So these things will grow in a very disproportionate way. But if you want to maintain a good front and have more ways to communicate, then I recommend you set up your Facebook page like now. Have it. Again, small channels won't see much growth, but it will grow. And the more you make content, the better it will be. And I will say just in general, Kevin, because I know you're being quite active in your channel as well. One of the secrets here is to make consistent quality content that people want to watch. I'm not one to blow smoke up my ass or blow my own horn or whatever you say, but there is a reason why channel NUSensei is growing, I wouldn't say exponentially, but in a linear way, whereas other channels are growing stagnant. I might mention things like, how many Olympic recurve channels are there? Short Archery is the only other one I really know, and there are others which are very infrequent, but Short is the only other one who makes regular content, and he makes some pretty funny content too. He makes good content, right? But why does Short kind of have 10 subs per day, but NUSensei is like 20 times the size? There has to be a reason why people making similar content will have much different growth rates. Another example, and a big example, is Grizzly Jim. He's been working on 2 channels, so there's Million Archery and back to Archery Adventures. Why doesn't he grow as quickly, even though most people know who he is? Most trad shooters know who he is. Same with Jeff Kavanagh. Why? Content. Making frequent content is a secret to being successful on YouTube. Make content you like, make content you're good at, and make content frequently, addressing things which people want to watch. So that's my general observation. Okay, so let's just make things that you want to make. If you want to make videos which you want to make, that's your thing, and people like that will watch you. But if you want more people to watch you, you have to make what they want to watch. And that's why paying attention to trends or major questions, hanging around forums or the Reddit will kind of give you clues as to what people want to know. I based my channel off my instructor experience, because every student who came through my club had common questions. So I made videos to address these questions for people who aren't with me. And that comes back and people will say, wow, it's really cool. Question before was, have people recognized me outside of my own club? The answer is yes. I've had someone in public. I mean, I've had people come to the club and not realize that I was there. So that's one thing. I've been in archery stores and people have asked me. This is back when I was really small too. I've had people ask me. They've seen me. A lot of shops know me, if not directly. And Probably the funniest, like there's a food truck which I eat every Thursday night, and it's it's Hot Dog Hustle. Find a wonderful shop, by the way. Makes the best hot dogs. It makes like really good gourmet hot dogs with like great toppings. I mean, today I had a chicken karaage, spicy chicken karaage hot dog. So it's basically your Frankfurt hot dog on a fairly sweet bun with crispy Japanese chicken with spicy sauce on top of that, and that was a beautiful thing. And it's funny because I kind of know the guy who runs it, and he like I walked up, I placed my order and said, I saw you on YouTube, and that was the coolest thing because I got like VIP service. I mean, he treats everybody really well, but that was kind of like my VIP service. So he recognized me, yeah, like this is back when I had my viral Olympic video. So there were various food trucks, and the people there watch YouTube a lot, and it trends on their YouTube account. So I just walked by, and they recognized me for what I do, and that was pretty cool. I think that was the most outwardly odd place to recognize me. Another place was my own school. There was someone who applied for my school, and he got the job, and he knew I taught somewhere, but he didn't know exactly where, and he walked past me and went, "Hang on, you're NUSensei." I'm like, what the hell? So he was an archer as well, and he watched my videos, and he still does. And I find it funny because he just like we just happened to work at the same place, and I just realized that. So yeah, no, I think quite a few people recognize me. I don't really stick my face out in the public that much, and I'm a pretty generic face. I'm like, look, I'm an Asian guy with black hair and glasses. That's like 40% of the population. Either you're a skinny Asian guy with glasses, or a chubby Asian guy with glasses. And occasionally you see someone without glasses. So, there isn't a lot of variety. So I can blend in pretty easily. So yeah, no, but I have been recognized. It is pretty funny sometimes. But yeah, it's something which I don't really encourage it. But it's funny when it does happen. But it's very easy to grow your ego when people recognize you and say you're a celebrity. Here's the thing, right? A lot of people want to be celebrities. It's like when you're young, you want to be famous. But when you're famous, you don't want to be famous. You want people to like piss off and leave you alone, right? So I'm trying to balance it, right? I don't want to be, again, I like my, you can call it a humble approach where, I might pop into a club, say hi to people, but not say, hey, look, I'm the YouTube guy, watch me, I will teach you how to shoot. No, I don't do that. I don't care about that. It's more like, I do what I can to give the community. I don't expect to be recognized for it. I don't really get a lot. By the way, Ryan, yes, I know Julian has made the bow. I've seen his last video. He's been in contact with me. So we're arranging a time to meet up and have a shot. So yes, I do know about the Molligamet bow, which he made. He's been in touch with me about that. The not to say new, by the way, I love that. That's great. We should have like NUSensei memes just for fun. The not to say new is great. Next April Fool, or next time I change my my avatar for Facebook, it'll be like not to say new. Oh, that's funny. That could work. So I'm just scrolling through the chat. I've been rambling for the last like 10 minutes. So I'll try and cut through some other things. It's funny you mention that, Nathan, because yeah, it's one thing that surprises me. So I don't really talk about YouTube to a lot of people. I don't talk to my family very often. Like I kind of avoid it. I don't really talk with my peers. My peers don't do YouTube. Most of them don't watch YouTube. So most of my peers, colleagues, family, they don't do anything I do. So I have this disconnection with the people around me. So I am somewhat isolated from, I guess, my own viewer base. So again, the people in my club, a few watch me, most don't. So ironically, I've got very little base support. And this is the funny thing with YouTube. Like, back when I started archery, on my YouTube channel. Like it was kind of a fun project. I mean, now that I'm nearly 100k, it's still a fun project. It's grown a lot. But back when I started, it's kind of a fun project because people, like my students, want to become social media famous. They're kind of like Jake Logan Paulers, right? So you have you know, people who have Instagram accounts and have followers, and you have like, it used to be like Facebook and friends, but no one cares about Facebook now. It used to be Instagram is still big, and Snapchat is really big, and a lot of people want to watch YouTube, right? They want YouTube subscribers. So you have a lot of these people who you have people who like make these channels and do like pranks and memes and challenges, and they get all their friends subscribed, right? But it's kind of like, I see these people just do it for the views and do it for the subs and not understand like the repercussions of making videos and the commitment required. And now that I've got that following, what's my point? I kind of rambled there. What's my point? My point was like now that I've grown bigger, I don't care about the fame. Like I don't feel I've let that gotten to me where like I'm big and people say they always ask how many subs do you have, how many views do you have, and you know, back when you had like 1,000, it's like, oh, I got 1,000. Now it's like 72,000, like 15 million views. And like, yeah, that's views now. I've made it, and I don't have that perception that I'm like the most famous. So it's kind of like now at my school, everyone knows, and it's kind of like the running joke I have with my kids, but it's not something I kind of promote all the time. Let's see. Yeah, fame, like James said, fame has an unfortunate side effects. That's why I want to separate. I don't want money. I don't want wealth. I mean, if I had to choose between money and fame, I'd probably pick fame. But the fame I crave or I look for, because remember, I grew up in a kind of a deprived kind of environment where praise was not given. I didn't feel rewarded for my hard work. So I'm the sort of person who will keep on working for the result, but not pay attention to any of the accolades which surround. I want the accolades, but I don't respect them because I'm used to not getting them. So it's kind of how I grew up, and it's just like, you know, I don't have any desire to claim an award which I don't deserve, or you know, I don't want a pat on the back for a job well done. I never got it. Because people always assume that I'm doing it right and I'm doing a good job. So I really got that praise and that recognition, which I worked hard for. So I just work hard and not expect the recognition for it. So when I do get it, it's kind of, oh, really? What? Really? It's me? Okay, cool. So I don't really have the that connection. Oh, sorry. Joseph C has a good point there. Okay. The KSL method is not universal. That's something you've probably learned, right? Which country are you at, Joseph? I'm not sure, because some countries are anti-KSL. They think it's bullcrap. I'll say, for example, in Australia, ironically in Australia, despite Keith Lee being the former Australian coach, the current coaching system in Australia deviates a lot from KSL. I mean, like even the current stance, top stand in Australia, is not KSL stance. We teach square stance. It's more Korean style rather than Australian style, despite Keith Lee developing total archery while he was in Australia. And a lot of people didn't like it. When we went to America, a lot of people didn't like his style either. But basically, KSL system is the current American NTS. In Australia, KSL is not recognized as the correct form of coaching. To gain your coaching accreditation, you need to follow Archery Australia's coaching manual, not KSL's guide. Now, in terms of what to do, because remember, KSL is kind of like a separate organization. You have some elements of corporate elitism. So you have KSL trained coaches in Australia. There's a handful that use KSL and teach it, but Archery Australia does not officially condone KSL. They'll tolerate it as an alternate method to enhance your understanding and coaching, because at least they're not so elitist, at least from what I know, that they'll stop you from teaching KSL. A good coach will choose and adapt methods and techniques that best suit the archer. So they're not going to follow doctrine or follow a script and teach everyone the same way. If someone knows about different methods which better suit the archer, they can do so. But having a KSL qualification doesn't automatically qualify them for an Archery Australia coaching qualification. And that's why you have this kind of division where you have an official organization with their coaching method, which is meant for them to teach people to become consistent archers, with a we call it a rival coaching system. And that's why KSL can be taboo. For example, in me, I don't teach KSL. One, I'm not a coach. I'm not qualified to be a coach, by the way, ironically enough. I've only been an instructor for 3 years. I'm so fresh as an instructor. You'd be surprised how underqualified I am. You know, I've got requests to go to clubs and they do seminars and all that. I'm less qualified than their coach. So who am I to run seminars, right? That's the funny thing. I keep saying fame is funny. I'm thinking, you know, I never get big-headed. I'm not as good as I might sound. I don't shoot that well. I'm not that qualified. If you want me to, like, you know, do a workshop on how to be an English teacher in the 21st century, sure. But an archery seminar, are you serious? You can probably do better than I can. I shoot better too. But the point was that what was my point? Yeah, like I don't teach KSL in my club. I teach people, but what it's basically a standard straight draw method using Archery Australia guidelines. I might teach different elements of KSL for someone who shows a better affinity towards it, but it's not our standard coaching. So when Joseph talks about this taboo feeling of KSL, understand that a lot of people don't like his method. I give one example is my own coach, because my own coach was contemporary of KSL. He was in Canberra when Lee was doing his experiments and his sports science studies and his research. My coach was one of the writers for the Archery Australia coaching book. Lee did a big part of that, and my own coach wrote part of that manual as well. So the manual that I used to coach was contributed to by my current coach. I still have some of the drafts and the raw documents that he shared with me before he retired. So I've got this pedigree, I guess you can say. Now, my own coach didn't like Lee. Why? Because Lee at the time was highly experimental, and he would do things that, you know, he would experiment with people to develop his best understanding of biomechanics. But some of the techniques were so woeful and didn't work, and there was one anecdote where my coach, he watched him train this archer and basically ruined her form, and she never competed again, basically. And it's kind of like why, you know, people who worked with him in certain capacities might come away with a different impression of Lee and his method. For people who learn it without any context, it would seem like the most mechanical way, which makes sense. It is a very efficient style of archery, but a lot of people don't see it that way. And that might be why, Joseph, you might come across taboo. You don't talk about Lee outside of Lee's actual systems. So again, you see in America a lot where it's like it's his system, so it's like the norm, but many people don't do it that way. And that's why you might come across that reaction. Yeah, sorry for the long rant, but that seems to be the reason why. Yeah, KSL explains a lot, and it's in my opinion, it's probably the most comprehensive sports science approach to archery. At the same time, it doesn't mean other people are wrong. All right, so he's probably the best at, you know, reaching out and promoting it at the best levels. But yeah, it doesn't mean it's the best method, apart from literally being the best method. Like I said, it's something which is very biomechanical, that is true, it might work, but not everyone shoots that way, and not everyone likes shooting that way. And this is why the conflict came when he first came to America. A lot of coaches didn't want to use the system, so it's quite tough. Right, I'm a teacher. So when I say I have schoolwork, I'm not referring to my college studies. I'm actually a teacher. My schoolwork is the opposite side. got quite a few things to do before I go to sleep, which is 11 o'clock, which is quite soon. I might sleep early and then wake up early to get my work done. Though I always like getting work done first, because I might sleep in and not do it. But we'll see how we go. Got a few things to figure out. A few small things, rather. Okay, let's do our last call for questions, because I'm running out of juice as well. I am, bing, empty right now. I need more juice. So, last questions. It's been a 2-hour stream. It's been quite productive today, actually. Because, like I said, my plan today was like, play Hearts of Iron or something, which is a little frustrating sometimes. I'm doing pretty well. So, last call for questions. Oh. Well, it's my shoulders hurting. I missed the entire conversation on that one. Oh, I'm talking about this shoulder. This one? Yeah. I'm just missing here. Is this shoulder hurting? That the one, or is it this shoulder? Because if it's this shoulder, often it's because of an incorrect shoulder alignment. You might find that you push it up too far. We don't have a 3-month vacation, Arnis. We finish on around December 23rd, and we come back in like January 27th. So the last week we finish on the week of Christmas, and we come back on the last week of January. It's about 1.5 months. We don't have a 3-month break. What the heck? Well, we do a 3-month break in summer. Really? 1.5 months. It's still a decent amount of time, but it's not that long. This isn't the American system. So our school system's a bit different from other places. Archery challenge? What kind of challenge? Like there aren't many things that I can set up to do. I don't have a space where I can do a lot of challenges. I don't have an indoor space which is safe to use, and I don't have an outdoor space which is very appropriate for a lot of things. There aren't many things you can do with challenges. Again, people like Dude Perfect can set up trick shots in like different environments. They have a whole team, right? They have camera people and multiple cameras and multiple bows, and I'm one guy. I don't have time to set up a shot. I'm too serious to do trick shooting or challenges. I'm not impressed as much. Unified string theory. It's like that joke where you have like there are like 12 different standards, so we should get rid of all of them and make one new standard. And now there's 13 standards. Why is the room pink? I don't know why it's pink. It's just pink. Well, we have 4 school terms. I'm not sure what system you're using to play Hunter, but we've got 4 school terms. So we have 2-week break between each term, and then the end of year it's about 1.5 months. And it's not really a vacation either. I mean, the summer it is a vacation in summer, which makes sense. But the term breaks, like you're still working during term breaks. It's not really a proper vacation. Like I still get work done, have to like do essay marking and write reports and so on. So it's not really a vacation. The summer one is probably close to a vacation, but the in between it's still kind of messy. A lot of teaching is after hours. It's one of the few professions where you bring work home and you're expected to bring work home. That's a bit of a downer with teaching. Because how many teachers do this, like do live streams on school night? I just happen to have free time right now. I've got work to do. I've got school work. I've got like 2 classes to mark, which I won't do tonight. I've got a lesson to plan for tomorrow's period 1 class. So like after 10 years, I've let the plan ahead, and have enough kind of material so I can reuse and recycle and remake as I need to. But I don't, you still have to do the hard yards and mark things and stuff. I'm an English teacher, so I mark essays. I don't like do tests and just say yes or no. It's a lot of work, and I feel that the amount of respect we get is quite low because people think it's all about vacations, and really it's not. We don't get that much time off. Okay, I reckon it's time now. We've had I think we've run the full distance with our chat. So once again, people, thank you for joining me. I do apologise for those who just joined in and missed out and just realised, oh, hang on, this isn't Sunday, this isn't Saturday. What's going on here? So I thought I'd just do it today. Get it over and done. We've got a lot of good questions there. A lot of contributions from the chat as well. So I hope I haven't missed on too much. I didn't read a lot of chat during this this stream because I was too busy answering other questions. But hopefully you got quite a bit from my ramblings and my questions and answers. So hopefully I could help you with something. We might entertain something else like, I don't know, SPTs and chill. We might try it once to see how much I die from that. But thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure, of course, and hopefully all of you got something from myself. If not from me, then from each other. That's also really awesome. So thank you a lot for joining me. I hope you have a nice day wherever you are, and hopefully I will see you again soon. I'll get this right this time. Ready? Fade out.